What is everybody? Welcome to Wild Pitches with Aris Theo Phanopoulos. I'm Mick Gillespie at Aris M Theo and at Broadcaster Mick on the socials. Great to have you guys with us for the Smokies podcast known as Wild Pitches. And I guess that's us. We're Wild Pitches.
Of course. I mean, you're looking pretty handsome, not so wild recently. Did you get a haircut?
Yeah, you know what? I need one. I just got my hat on right now. I mean, I get my hair cut in Knoxville only. I go to Gambuzo's barbershop. My guy that cuts my hair is named Eric, and he is the only person, unless I'm in a dire emergency, that I let cut my hair. It used to be Frank's barbershop, and the guy does an amazing job. I mean, this is unsolicited promotion, but he is the best of the best, man. I love that guy. And a Smokies fan on top of it.
Well, that means he has good taste.
Shout
out to Sport Clips in Sevierville and Ellen. Get my haircut from her during lunch break and stuff sometimes. So
do you so for me, I mean, I've got to schedule his bookings are like, if you don't schedule a month out, you can't get them. Right. He travels around and is like a rep for Redken, where he cuts hair for them. He's like, I mean, I'm not trying to brag on him. I'm not trying to one up you or anything, but I mean, like,
I think you're one up
but he's also probably one of his haircuts, probably like 3 of Ellen's these days, so like in a way, it's like, maybe I need to go to Sports Clips.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting quality, I'm getting quantity. I guess.
Is she always available, or I mean, do you make appointments, or do you just go and sit in the chair?
They have like the little app and everything, and it lets you choose what stylist you want to cut your hair and all. So, she's done it for probably a good over a year now. So, and if Ellen ends up leaving, then I have to move my allegiances to next available. So,
so what happens when you get next available?
Hey, you know what? It'll be fine. It goes back to just whatever. I mean, it's pretty simple just to do what the notes say and do a 3 over there and scissor on the top. I guess that should be something that everyone knows how to do out of barber school. So, I mean, only the finest for Sport Clips, of course. So.
Yeah. Well, the thing, look, your hair looks like it's a lot easier to cut than mine. Like I just have this mop of hair, and it's easy to mess up, like it just, and it takes forever to like grow out if it's not cut right, so it's not like I'm one of these guys that has to have like the expensive hair person. It's that it just is hard to cut, like,
yeah,
this is. I don't really understand the genetics of the whole thing, other than like it's all about the way that your hair grows and also the type of hair you have. So, for me, it's like it's like some of it's going one way, some of it's going the other. So he's got to cut differently to make it look the same.
Hey, when you're representing Redken, you got to have the best.
They fly. He was, and I don't know what he's doing now, but he was like flying all over like the country to do things like, and they have other, Gambuzo's has other barbershops like Austin, Texas. And then the guy, Frank Gambuzo, was from like up in New York. Like the story is he used to cut hair for, some important people up there, some very important people. But no, he's great too. I've met Frank before. He'll come in every once in a while, and he's great, man. That guy's got so many good stories and stuff. So, anyway, let's talk about the Smokies. We're getting closer and closer to opening day, to spring training. I can't wait. You and I are working on a project right now to basically a recap video of the season, which would be part of, I'm thinking, a bigger event. But when you go through and you're working on that, I'm sure it kind of gets you fired up thinking about that incredible run that we had last year.
Still can't believe it. And maybe it'll set in a little bit more when the championship rings are passed out and that banner actually is put up there at Smoky Stadium. And then that really sets in. I'm still kind of in awe about the whole thing. about how they actually put together this run and they were very dominant in the playoffs, and it all came together. It finally all came together. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I wouldn't have, but I'm glad that it did. I'm glad that it did. Like that we had so much heartbreak. Now maybe we'll roll off like 3 straight or something crazy. Like we've been in this drought, and now we're the champs. And it's like a year for that. Like I was watching the national championship football game, right? And Michigan hasn't been champion since '97. They haven't had an outright championship since the '40s. And it was just their year. Like everything just fell in place for them. And they won a championship. The Texas Rangers never won a World Series. It all kind of fell in place for them. It's just one of those years where it was like the teams that have come up short, like now all of a sudden, and I guess it's even really the last year, but this year's when when Michigan won. But you know what? I mean, that's what's cool about sports. I mean, you go out there every year and you try to compete and win, and hopefully you do. And if you do, it's a memorable season.
Hey, yeah, shout out to all the Michigan fans out there. I mean, well deserved, and it finally happened. Georgia wasn't in the picture, and I felt like the big thing was they got by Alabama, and I felt like that was it. Like they were going to win the championship against Washington. Penix had a great game before against Texas, and he played the game of his life. And people may think that he's going to be a fantastic quarterback in the NFL, and he already has all the years of experience in there. But I had a good sense that it was going to be Michigan's time to shine when they finally beat Alabama and they won the whole thing. So shout out to them, and many years of prosper, and it's going to be very different next year with 12 teams in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, totally different. What's cool is I know there's a lot of Tennessee fans that are watching because, obviously we're real close to the University of Tennessee. 2 years ago, Tennessee would have made it with the 12-team playoff. And if they hadn't have been upset by South Carolina, and then obviously Hendon Hooker was hurt in that game, but I think they were a team that if they'd have played Georgia in a rematch that year, I think they would have beaten them. Obviously this year ended with a great win over Iowa. I mean, a dominant win. And, Iowa was so bad.
They just had to score. I think if they scored 12 points, they were going to win the game.
They scored 3.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I did I won this this college football pick thing that we did, right? And it was so cool, not only to win, and you always like to get that extra cash, but basically you had to pick bowl games on the ESPN fantasy app thing, and you would pick what games you were, you have all the bowl games, right? And then you pick how confident you are.
Rank them.
That's how you do it. You don't play against the spread. You just rank and that Tennessee-Iowa game was way up there for me. I never thought Iowa would beat Tennessee. And watching them, that one in the Georgia game, Georgia against Florida State, those were 2 slam dunks right there. But yeah, I won the thing. I was in the 99.8 percentile. I was of all the people in the whole country playing the thing. I went 33-10.
Wow.
And it's tough to do that because there's so many opt-outs now in bowl games. Who's going to show up and play, who's not, I mean, part of that's luck, but it came down to, I was a couple of points away, but I was thinking that when I looked at the pairing, I thought Washington's going to beat Texas because Texas secondary was just so bad, and Washington with Michael Penix was going to throw the ball on them, and it would be kind of like a Oklahoma type shootout, which it was. So I was lucky that happened because Texas had the ball at the 15 at the end of the game.
Right.
And then I thought Alabama would beat Michigan in the same kind of game that Michigan beat Alabama. I mean, I thought it would be that type of game. And then you get to pick the championship game. So you just get one more pick after that. And I thought, man, Michigan's going to just run right over these guys. And they did. They had 150 yards rushing in the first quarter or something.
I mean, that one guy was Robinson, right?
Edwards. Was it Edwards?
Edwards. That's
yeah.
You know, he had
Guy was a
two
train,
carries
man.
for 87 yards. So
Yeah. He saved his best game for the most important game. And so, so that's how that went down. And that was a great, that was like last year was fantasy football. And then this year was the bowl pick'em. But, perfect leading into my trip to Key West, right? Help me fund my vacation. And you're going to the Bahamas and I'm going to Key West at the end of the month again. So that'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get down there. I'm going for a week. I'm going to drive. So there's a couple, I want to stop and see my uncle. Don't tell him, it's going to be a surprise. And I want to see Father Carl, who's the guy that got me inspired to be a play-by-play guy. He's got his church is in Boca Raton, Florida. So it's kind of right on the way. I got a friend that lives in Miami that I might stop and see. So, and then go on over and hang out. I got some buddies down there in Key West and do it. The only thing I'm hoping is just the only thing that would deter me from that week is if I look and the weather's not great. You know, I don't want to go down there and it be like raining. I want to rent a boat and boat around and, and all that stuff. So, we're talking about the Smokies, and this is the first release of the promotional schedule, Aris, and you guys put this together, your department, and you did a great job with it. And there it is. The Hampton Inn and Suites pennant. I love pennants, first off. Nothing's more baseball than a pennant. You call winning the league a pennant. You call winning the World Series winning a pennant. Like, it's just part of the history of the game. These things are so collectible. And when they're stadium giveaways, it even makes them more collectible because they are limited to, 1,000 or something, right?
Exactly.
This one is the first one of these that we've had in 45 years. On it, you've got some of the star players that helped win the championship. What went into designing this? How did you pick the players? Give me some background on this. And do you know when we're going to give this one away?
Yes. So just as we've been teasing it over the week, this is going to be our first giveaway of the season. And this will take place on April 6th. So it's our first Saturday game. First 1,000 fans through the gates are going to be getting one of these pennants brought to you by Hampton Inn and Suites. This is a full-size pennant, 30 by 12 inches. And just as you said, pennants are baseball. It's what, it eats and breathes baseball. I love pennants. I have a great collection of them, not just for my teams that I follow, but also, collectible ones for championships, all-star games, so on and so forth. And so this pennant giveaway is for the first 1,000 fans. And what does it have on there? It has our championship logo, proud 2023 Tennessee Smokies Southern League champs. And then on the bottom, we have the starting lineup and the starting pitcher of the clinching game in Pensacola when we won the championship.
Really? So that is cool.
Yeah, that is the batting order with their names and numbers on there. So it's going to be great because this is something that you can look back on. And as a Cubs fan and a Smokies fan, you're hoping that a lot of these names that are on this pennant end up playing for the Cubs and having a great career in the majors. And that you saw them first here on the championship Smokies team.
I got to get this, and I got to get this signed. I'm not even an autograph guy, but this would be incredible to have all these guys sign this thing. Can you imagine that?
I mean, that'd be awesome. You get one of those silver Sharpies and you get it on there on that blue and the red. Like, it'll be great. There's some big names on this team that won the championship, and there's some big names that are in this starting lineup. There's a couple of players there that weren't on the team for very long. Christian Franklin, Kevin Alcantara, Moises Ballesteros. They were part of that cavalcade that came in at the end. But you have a couple of those players that were on the team the entire season, like B.J. Murray and Pablo Aliendo. And then you have, Smokies player that's played for the team for a couple of years, and a lot of people love him, like Andy Weber there. No longer in the Cubs organization, but forever cemented in Smokies lore with this pennant.
That's right. He was picked up in the Rule 5 draft. So I guess if you get the whole thing, you're going to have to go to where did he?
I think he went to San Francisco.
Yeah, somewhere
Arizona,
like that.
One of those. So.
That's crazy. I'm going to look it up. But that is, I didn't even think about that being that you'd have to be a tough one to get. Wow. Well, this is a great idea. I love it, man. What made you come up with this? How'd you do it?
Just as I said, big fan of pennants, and I kind of based off of this look. I have a pennant from the 2013 Boston Red Sox World Series champion team, and they have a couple of, like, the big name players that were on there, Big Poppy and all of them, but they didn't do it where it was as if it was like a starting lineup.
Yeah,
Like,
that makes this so collectible, man. That makes this to me like when you handed it to me, I didn't even think about. I saw there's some names they probably picked, like, some players, but the fact that you got the Game 2 Championship Series starting lineup is killer, man. I love it. He did go to the Diamondbacks, by the way.
Okay, Arizona, right?
Yeah, I think Levi might have gotten Rule 5'd to San Francisco, but.
Yeah.
But he wasn't with us at the end. So yeah, what a lineup, man. Let me just go through these guys and talk about each one of them. Just because that's something that I can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Leading off, Matt Shaw. He was the #1 pick for the Cubs last year out of the University of Maryland, like an infielder that I think he played second base in this game. Yeah, looking at it. Yeah, he played second. Speedy guy. Really was held his own for a guy playing in professional baseball for the first time. And the Cubs challenged him by moving him up to Double-A so fast. I'm guessing that he's going to be on the Smokies to start the season, but he was so good in the postseason. I mean, not batting average wise, but when he got on base, he found a way to score. He was good defensively. He's a smart player. He's someone to keep an eye on in the big leagues for the Cubs. BJ Murray, who was batting second, played third base. He was the MVP. He did something to help the team win every single game, including the championship game where he hit a 3-run homer. And he's one of the guys that we talked to for the championship video. And I thought we had to have him in that video because he was so integral to the success that the Smokies had. The reason that the Smokies hadn't won a championship in 45 years, and I told him this, is because we didn't have him. We didn't have that guy who was driving in runs every single game, and they were early game runs. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to score first in those type of games because of the way that the bullpen sets up, and he did that. And his 3-run homer in Game 2 basically was the hit that knocked out that gave the Smokies the momentum to win that game, right? Number 3 in here, first right fielder Owen Casey. He was like our star the entire year. Like this guy, they got him from the Padres in the Yu Darvish deal. And I remember them telling me some of the Cubs people in the front office, like, this guy is young. That's kind of how they do deals now. They're not going to trade you somebody in Double-A, but this guy's really exciting. He's the highest drafted Canadian in outfielder. And then, the Cubs got him. And it's like when his bat hits the ball, it's amazing what he's able to do. I mean, he plays excellent outfield defense. He's a really mature guy. He's a likable guy, and he's a star player. And he came up with a bunch of big hits too the entire season. He would have to be one of the team MVPs for the entire year. And he was in like in the top 5 for pretty much every offensive category: home runs, RBIs, total bases, doubles, all that stuff. Then you got Hayden McGarry, played first base. He was actually DH in this game. Another guy that can hit, exciting player, a catcher that was really working on playing first base throughout the season. But he's loved by the analytics guys because of the exit velocity on balls that he makes contact with.
And that's the guy that played in the Appalachian League, just a few years ago.
That's right. That's right.
Backyard.
Yeah. Then you got Moises Ballesteros, who played first base. He's listed as a catcher. We didn't really see him catch, but he was only there for a week. Just another really solid bat. He's a top 10 Cubs prospect, and did a really nice job playing first base, and was just another tough out in the lineup. Then you got Pablo Aliendo. I can still see that red hair that he had for the championship series catcher. I'd say he to me is the Cubs' top catching prospect. He's I think eventually going to be in the big leagues. He waited until the end of the season for some of his best performances. He was excellent behind the plate in the postseason, and he had a very solid year for the Smokies. Then you got the guy that's known as the Jaguar, Kevin Alcantara. And the Cubs got him in the Anthony Rizzo trade from the Yankees. Tall, lanky center fielder. When the Cubs took Pete Crow Armstrong, we went games without really like a solid center fielder defensively. And I thought that the reason that the Smokies didn't win in 22 was because when Alexander Canario was promoted to AAA, they didn't give us a center fielder. Well, this time, the week before the playoffs, they sent us Alcantara, and he did a nice job playing center field. Still, you can tell he's still learning the position, kind of learning his body. He's like a long, lanky, hasn't really grown into himself yet, but he's athletic. And then at the plate, he was so aggressive in the postseason. He had the 3-run homer in game 2 against Chattanooga. And that was one of the biggest hits in the entire playoff because Smokies, I think, won the game 4-1. That 3-run homer put them ahead 4-0. And with the way that the pitching was going, Chattanooga was done at that point. But that home run was big, and he had hits and drove in runs and did a lot of stuff. He's a special player.
He just looks like a baseball player. Yeah. Like it's like I cannot envision this guy, first of all, playing a different sport, but like doing anything else. This guy is just, you said, like he's tall, lanky. This guy can hit for power. Like he looks like a baseball player. Looking forward to seeing him next year in Tennessee.
Yeah, same here. And that's exactly where he'll start with the Smokies. Then Christian Franklin, he was platooning in left field for the playoffs. And those guys did such a great job. Franklin got hits and made a bunch of plays out there. It was so fun watching those guys play in the outfield, get on base, give you competitive at bats. And that's another guy we'll see with the Smokies next year, an exciting player. And then you got like the veteran, the guy that had been around for a while, dealt with some injuries. But Andy Weber, and it's not like Weber was that old. It was just that he was just dealing with the injuries from the year before. They put him at shortstop for the postseason, and you could tell that he took his game up to an entirely different level. He played the best defense that he's played since he was with the Smokies. He was a tough out in that 9 spot. And it also, and I said this to Rick Strickland, our hitting coach, and Kevin Graber, who was our manager the second half of the season. I said, Andy Weber batting 9th tells you how good this lineup is. And looking at it right now, it really does tell me how good that lineup is because he is a good hitter. So he batted 9th. And then you got Cade Horton, who was, really could have pushed BJ Murray for MVP of the playoffs. I mean, he pitched in 2 games and dominated. Yeah. He dominated in this game. There's another guy who the Smokies, all these championship series losses from, 1978 on, how many times are you ever going to have it lined up where you actually have a true ace that comes in? He's the Cubs' top pitching prospect. He lived up to that. The fastball was just electric. He's got that little bit of meanness to him, like don't get comfortable at the plate. He's got that hammer slider. He's special, and I'm excited to see where his career goes. But just having him to pitch game 2 in Pensacola gave me a lot of confidence that this was the year. And it was the year. But the pennant looks great, man.
Yeah, thank you. She did a fantastic job. This is literally like, when I had my vision of what I wanted here, she made it a reality. So big shout out to Lindsay. Great job on this. And, it wouldn't be possible unless this team ended up doing it, So They did it. And now I get, this pennant to proudly display in my office and, for that forever. This is something that we look forward to hopefully replicating this time next year as well.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. I mean, I know, like, personally, just having been a fixture for a long time, it'll be a lot easier to broadcast games with that championship ring on.
For
You
sure,
know,
for
and,
sure.
and honestly, I mean, it's almost like, and it shouldn't matter, right? It shouldn't really matter when you do the jobs that we do, what the team on the field does, right? Because our job, even though it's a lot more fun with a winning team, um, it it really doesn't matter who wins. We just have to make sure that we do a quality job. The broadcast needs to sound fun. It needs to sound informative. You know, you want to be entertaining. You know, you guys want to, make sure that you do stuff like this and make a great environment when people walk through the gates and they have a good time. And I'd say, the majority of the fans don't care. They come for the party. They come for the excitement. They don't even know the guys on the on the thing
Right, right.
until they do something like this, and now they're immortalized on a pennant and in our minds. But it's just it's so fun to win, and it really is special to be around a group of guys like we had last year. And after dealing with all of those championship series losses, just to have one was awesome. So I love this. This is one of those things I can't wait to get my hands on.
For sure. Just as you said, I've worked for organizations where we have been awful, so bad. I worked for the Inland Empire 66ers, high affiliate for the Angels, and we had the worst record in all of minor league baseball. 140 games, we only won 34 of them. So
Wow.
we saw over 110 losses that year. But you know what? We were first in attendance because we put together so much fun. It's all about bringing everybody out to the ballpark and having a good time. Yes, most of the time our fans come out and they're just there blowing off some steam and having some fun, having a hot dog, having a beer, spend time with their friends and their family. When they leave, they don't know who scored the most runs. It doesn't matter who wins or who loses, but it is so much better when you win. There's an
Yeah.
extra sense of joy when you leave the ballpark after working from 9 a.m. until midnight. The game's in extra innings and it's been a long day. You got to come back the next morning again to do it all over because we're in a 6-game series. It's just so much better when you end up winning that game and
Yeah.
seeing the fans get so excited about a walk-off hit or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
these players are the reason for a lot of smiles over the year. Pablo Aliendo had a game-winning hit early in the year. I think it was like the second game of the season.
Second game, walk off. I was in the hospital.
Yeah, that's right. You could have been
I
dead.
almost died. Fun.
So, he was we saw this guy Aliendo where, he was in a platoon for a catcher. He wasn't an everyday type of guy, at the beginning of the year. And then he ends up being a fan favorite, being that catcher for us throughout the season, the end of the season, into the playoffs, him having that funky red hair he had. And, he was one of the guys that when we had our wrestling night, a wrestling themed game at the end of the season, he was there and he was watching all of the matches with the fans.
Right.
This guy is just one of those dudes. You want him in your corner. And, it's so fun to see him, progress throughout the year of not even being an everyday guy to cracking the top 30 in the Cubs prospects. So, I'm hoping that we have him next year, at least the beginning of the season. And I hope to see a lot of these guys, to begin the season because of how exciting it could be for our fans to get an autograph on these pennants of these players. That is an exciting time.
Yeah, I mean, just like I'll tell you, the guys I'm guessing that'll be with the Smokies. This is just a guess, but I'd say Matt Shaw, possibly Hayden McGarry. I think it's probably 50-50 for him. I would say most likely, unless something happens and he gets hurt, but Ballesteros, Alcantara, Franklin, and Cade Horton. I would guess that those guys will be with the Smokies. Now, that's not a guarantee, but that's just me kind of using, age and wisdom here to think that, that those guys will be here. Now, some of the other guys could be there, or maybe some of the guys aren't there, but those are your best bet. and
Do
which
you
is
expect
crazy.
Horton? Do you expect Horton to be kind of similar to like Ben Brown,
Yeah,
a year ago,
exactly.
where he made his debut late in the season for the Smokies, pitched in the beginning of the year for the Smokies, but then he was only here like for 2 homestands or so, and then he was on his way out.
That's
So,
exactly what I expect. Because the minute that Horton's ready, they're going to put him in the big leagues.
mhm.
So they'd love that to be sooner than later. Being that he's a college pitcher, he's a high draft pick. Even with the Cubs getting Shota Imanaga, the Japanese pitcher, in free agency, and who knows who else they're going to end up getting, but it's going to help them to have him ready. So they're going to want him to be in AAA facing that level of hitter. And even there, it's still very difficult to transition from the AA to AAA. And then the biggest jump now is AAA to the big leagues. And I used to say that the biggest jump was A ball to AA, but it's just changed a lot. I think that guys move so fast through the system. You don't have as many veterans in AA anymore. The level of skill has definitely diminished because of the rapid rise of players. And so, they get to AAA a lot faster. But then when they get to the big leagues, I mean, it's like night and day, where it used to be you would get to AA and it'd be like, wow, this is just an entirely different guy. Like pitching in AA used to, in my opinion, used to be even better than AAA, because it would be guys that threw hard and kind of knew what they were doing, right? Maybe they were still learning how to set up batters and some of the nuances of pitching, but they could do it. And then you would get to AAA and it was like a lot of like guys that didn't quite have the stuff, but knew what to do, like didn't throw hard, but were crafty. Like they couldn't survive in the big leagues because those guys could hit that, but they would dominate in AA because, you're used to just seeing a bunch of flamethrowers that would go to the big leagues once they kind of figured it out. Now it's, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's just kind of like, hey, you hit AA, then you hit AAA, and then you hit the big leagues. And the level of education to me has diminished because the time that you have guys has diminished,
Right.
You said, I mean, you're barely going to see Cade Horton, and then he'll be in AAA, and then he'll take his lumps in the big leagues and try to figure out there instead of like taking his lumps in double and AAA. I don't think he'll really have much of an issue in AA anyway, because those hitters aren't even capable of taking advantage of the mistakes that he makes. You're going to have to get him to the big leagues before they can kind of cue in on, hey, look here. Yeah. I mean, and that's just the way it is. I mean, some guys will be able to do it, but all in all, that's how the sport to me has changed over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. And so many of the players, they grow up in, doing camps and travel ball, and they're trying so hard to, shape pitches and get spin rates and velo, how hard can I throw? And instead of just like, hey, how can I get this guy out? How can I change speeds and, get pitch to contact? And, they don't want anybody to hit the ball. But the problem with that is it's max effort. And, the amount of time that you're actually out there to do anything is smaller because of the fact that, you're using max effort. Like you watch a guy like Kyle Hendricks, who pitched for the Smokies, that he's kind of the opposite of that. On the other end, man, he doesn't even throw 90, but he still gets a lot of outs because he's setting guys up and he's doing this and that. So
It's an art, dude. It's an art. And just as, with art, it changes and it's a matter of interpretation. You always got to see what's the new thing, so that's just how it is now in baseball, right?
Yeah, that is. Well, you got me excited. I feel like now you should like unveil a promotion each show just so that I can see what you're doing and talk about it.
Okay, you know what? I can lock that in. You know what?
Yeah, it'd be fun.
We'll make the announcement right now that we will reveal another one of our giveaways on the next podcast.
Yeah, the giveaways, our fans, man, they show up for those. I mean, I love it when I walk by and I see everybody hanging out on their lawn chairs and stacked up in front of the the gates ready for those things to open, and some really cool stuff last year. I love my my straw hat, my Smoky straw hat. That was one of my favorite ever giveaways. Yeah. And I can't wait for this year's Margaritaville night and and all the other stuff that we're going to do. So it'd be fun, man. This pennant's great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And there's going to be vague, but also kind of straight to the point. There will be another giveaway slated for recollecting that championship team.
So cool.
You can look out for that. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's going to be a special season just because we'll honor our time at Smoky Stadium as well.
Yep.
Which we've enjoyed it. I mean, and the new ballpark's going to be awesome. I've seen the renderings, obviously, and the construction's ahead of schedule. They're already deep into the foundation and concrete and all of that stuff. It's going to be awesome in the old city. But this year is all about like kind of honoring the years that we've spent at Smoky Stadium, and that makes this year special. I mean, you think about it. Last year was a championship season. This year is like, hey, let's honor the ballpark and the championship team, right? And then next year we're going to have a new stadium to go into, and that's going to be awesome. So
we're blessed. We really are. We're blessed. We get to enjoy all of these things in such a short amount of time. So
yeah, so that's awesome. All right, man. Well, look, you've got coming up a trip to the Bahamas, and I can't wait to hear how that goes. Right? I don't think I'll talk to you until you're back, right?
Yeah. We'll talk when I get back, and I'll be back that final. The first week of the February. So yeah, I'll be here January 29th through that week. So is that the week that you're leaving for Key West?
Yeah, but I can find time in Key West. I'm bringing my gear, so maybe we'll talk from somewhere down there.
Okay.
On the Keys.
That's great. That's great.
All right, man. Well, this was fun. Let's do it again soon, and let's crank the music up. This was Wild Pitches.